High levels of cortisol in a woman's body can disrupt the production and balance of her sex hormones, leading to those symptoms such as irregular menstrual cycles, missing periods, missing ovulation, and also decreased energy, decreased libido, disconnection from the physical body, disassociation, numbness, emotional guardedness, disconnection from emotions, a constant state of feeling wired and then maybe crashing into exhausted or tired by the end of the day, insomnia, lack of being able to rest, to regulate sleep disruptions and sleep pattern disorders. Welcome to the Embodied Woman podcast with me, Rebecca Wilson. If you believe that fertile energy, creative power, and embodied, resourced, nourished women will change the world, then you are in the right place. This is a space to support you to arrive deeper into relationship with yourself and your body, to explore the multifaceted experience of womanhood. It is my mission to guide women back into connection with their natural essence, to become the living embodiment of their true nature. Are you ready to join a community of women who are taking responsibility for our lives, our energy, women who are centered and rooted in ourselves, connected to our womb space and deeply nourished on a cellular level? If so, let's begin into this week's episode. Welcome to the community, my love. Hello, beautiful. Welcome back to the Embodied Woman podcast. It's so good to be together. And today we're talking about a topic and an experience, a subject that I really have a personal history with. And that is the impact of stress on our sex hormones as women. So, our body is a complex system. We are at all times in a finely tuned dance of hormones and their regulation, and how they play such crucial and vital roles in the regulation of physiological processes and functions in our body, and that then ultimately maintaining our overall sense of vitality and energy, a sense of wellness within. Particularly within this cascade or this dance, this finely tuned dance of hormones are our sex hormones as women, such as estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. These are the hormones that govern our reproductive processes, our cycles, and also have a huge impact on our mood, energy, and overall vitality. When we are experiencing stress, a different cascade or family of hormones fill the body. These are known as stress hormones, and they trigger the body's fight and flight response. There is an intricate relationship between our stress hormones and our sex hormones. How our body responds to stress has a direct influence and impact on our hormonal balance, our mineral balance, and therefore our overall mental, physical, emotional, physiological, spiritual sense of wellness. So first of all, let's just dive into what is the stress response in the body. So the stress response is known often as the fight or flight or sometimes freeze, fawn response in the body. We arrive into the stress response when our bodies perceive a threat, a danger, or a stressor. So that could be physical, emotional, psychological, energetic. We perceive this experience or interaction or feeling state within the body and the nervous system as threatening, dangerous, or highly stressful. So our body intuitively and very wisely, because it is an essential process, initiates that cascade of responses known as the stress response, known as stress hormones in the body. Now, of course, this is part of our evolutionary mechanism and very much an essential process for our body to be able to undertake. But only when we are in such an experience where it is needed. Through evolution, we would have needed this response when we were running from a bear in the wild, or, more closer to our time in history. We need the response when we may be in a situation that could be threatening or dangerous. Maybe, we're walking down the street and we want to be staying on the pavement and not walking in the road. And maybe we get a little fright and we feel that kind of energizing cascade of stress hormones move through the body, adrenaline, cortisol. And it's warning us something. It's telling us something. There's a threat. There's a danger. Get out the way, run, hide, whatever it is that we go into, whether it's fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And it's a very much needed energy and response in the body. It is designed within our body to mobilize our body's resources of energy to deal with the perceived danger, threat, stress, or challenge that we are under or we're facing. Okay. So the body in that stress response often feels very energized, very aroused, highly activated, because the body has intuitively and intelligently mobilized all of this stored energy in our body, our cells, brought it up from wherever it can to have enough energy to fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and so on. And ideally, after we have been in such an experience, we're then able to calm all of that down. The energy that's left can go back to where it needs to be or where it came from, and we're able to regulate our system. The modern world is slightly different. We are we are exposed to so many experiences that feel dangerous, threatening, or a stress upon our body and our nervous system. With the exposure to so much more screen time, working hours changing, the exposure to artificial lighting, to phones at times in the morning or the evening where there isn't natural light, TV screens, computer screens, disruption to our circadian, sleep patterns and rhythms. And these all play a part in the body being in a stress response. In the modern world, we see a lot of women that are in a constant state of imbalance or high states of cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, which are all of the hormones which are preparing the body for action, for defense, attack, for fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Okay. They prepare the body by increasing the heart rate, the blood pressure, and the energy metabolism, the mobilization of energy, stored energy, which is good to have in our bodies, should we need to go into this fight or flight reaction or response to this perceived threat or danger. So this has such an impact on our sex hormones because, as I've said, stress response is crucial for our survival in threatening situations. But when we find ourselves in prolonged or chronic states and stages of stress, it can have a really detrimental effect on our hormone balance, which includes our sex hormones. Research suggests that our body cannot produce sex hormones and stress hormones simultaneously, as they operate within different physiological pathways and regulatory systems in the body. So when the body is in a state of stress, the resources, energy, are diverted away from what the body deems as non-essential functions, such as reproduction, fertility, menstrual cycle, ovulation, sometimes bleeding, and moves it towards the immediate survival needs. So here we can see in a woman's body, if she's experienced or has been experiencing prolonged or chronic states of stress and ovulation, so missing ovulation, she could be missing her menstrual cycle as in her bleed. She's stopped her bleeding. Challenges with hormones throughout the different seasons and stages of her cycle, premenstrual syndrome, PMDD, which is premenstrual disorder, mood disorder. She might be experiencing heavy bleeding or very light, scantily bleeding, missing cycles, alternating months or having a few months at a time where she's not bleeding, challenges with reproduction and fertility. And this shows us that the body has been in a perceived state of threat and survival for a significant period of time. This often takes a woman's body into a cortisol dominance and therefore a hormonal imbalance. One of the primary stress hormones that I was speaking of is the hormone cortisol, known as the stress hormone. Its role is to modulate the body's response to stress by maintaining balance, or also known as homeostasis. But when we've been in this chronic state of stress for a long period of time, it can lead us into dysregulation of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, also known as the HPA axis. And this can result in elevated cortisol levels, known as cortisol dominance. High levels of cortisol in a woman's body can disrupt the production and balance of her sex hormones, leading to those symptoms that I described earlier, such as irregular menstrual cycles, missing periods, missing ovulation, and also decreased energy, decreased libido, disconnection from the physical body, disassociation, numbness, emotional guardedness, disconnection from emotions, a constant state of feeling wired and then maybe crashing into exhausted or tired by the end of the day, insomnia, lack of being able to rest, to regulate sleep disruptions and sleep pattern disorders, fertility challenges, and so much more. This intricate interplay between stress hormones and sex hormones has a significant impact on our reproductive health and our fertility. Chronic stress for women can disrupt the menstrual cycle and ovulation, and for men, it can disrupt the production of sperm. Stress-induced hormonal imbalances can also contribute in other ways to conditions such as PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, endometriosis, erectile dysfunction, and other reproductive complications, which then complicate the journey of fertility and sex hormone balance for men and women. It is important to better understand your own physiological expressions. And this is where I love looking at the HTMA, which is the hair tissue mineral analysis. Within this, we can see not only a baseline of hormonal dysregulations, but what lives underneath that is mineral dysregulation. So often we finish the inquiry or the search when we look at blood work and hormones, but actually underneath that is the dysregulation of our minerals. Often we will see on a HTMA a woman, because I work with women who are hormonally imbalanced and their stress hormones are imbalanced. They have been living in a state of fight and flight for a long period of time under chronic stress. We'll often see, a dysregulation in magnesium, either a deficiency or the body's burning through it at a very high rate. So the mag can be high or low on the chart. And an imbalance in copper and iron, an inability to recycle iron. So it gets stored in the tissues of the body, often in the liver, the ovaries, and the thyroid. And an inability to have copper bound to the protein that it needs to be to get into the cell to create ATP energy. Often we'll also see on the HTMA a imbalance in the adrenal glands, in the sodium-potassium ratio, and often a lot of oxidative stress within the system. And this really is the HPA axis. It's the pituitary, the hypothalamus, the adrenal. We could also extend that to, the gonads, so the ovaries or the testes, the thyroid too. They all play such an intricate role in the regulation of our hormonal pathways in our body. The root cause is not the symptom or what is manifesting, but rather what lives underneath that. So the emotional, physical, mental stressor, whether it be a trauma that we've experienced or an ongoing stressor or chronic stress that we've experienced in life, that is the root cause of the mineral imbalance and therefore the hormonal imbalance. When I work with women that are on a journey of wanting to balance out their sex hormones and regulate their minerals, we must first look at their timeline of stress in their life. And this was where I began my journey of remineralization and balancing out mind, body, hormones, and stress in my system, was to really look at all the ways in which I was feeling stress, had experienced stress, and how that was impacting me on an emotional and physiological level. And this is where I support women in my group and my individual mentorships, not only with the protocol strategy and the HTMA results and testing, but also in that energetic, emotional, and somatic experience too. Because to arrive into a state of hormonal and mineral balance to support our reproductive health as women, it is essential for us to be learning skills and practices to manage stress and cultivate resilience and resource in our body. Life is stressful. It's always going to have its ups and its downs. That is the human experience. But when we better understand practices that help us to reduce stress, to resource our bodies, we can mitigate the effects of either long-standing stress and what that chronic stress had on the body, and also work our way through any stressful experiences or seasons that we are yet to walk through in this expansive journey of humanness. The first few priorities that I would often recommend is for women to be getting adequate amount of sleep, nutrient-dense food, and bringing in self-care practices daily, whether it be for a few moments or a longer time, depending on what you have available, space and time-wise in your life. That can help to support a balancing of your mind, your energy, and ultimately stress that's in your body. Stress and sex hormones are in this intricate relationship within our bodies, and they are fundamental in living in a balanced and kind of homeostasis place within. it is possible for us to restore hormonal and mineral balance and be living in a state of ease and harmony within our bodies. And it often requires us to have a real strong look at all the places and spaces within our lives that have been contributing towards stress in our bodies, whether that be unhooking from thought patterns, belief systems, ways of being, actions and behaviors that are rooted in history and driven by old traumas and stresses, or whether that be readdressing or addressing our lifestyle, maybe choosing different activities or different things to do with our spare time that are not so stress-inducing on the body. Sometimes we have to have a look at our work-life balance and really tune into whether the environments that we're in within our careers and our work serve our energy, our reproductive health, our fertility, which is a vital sign for us all as women, regardless of our choices to want to conceive or not, to birth life or not, whether we are embarking on that, choosing not to do that, or through that point of our journey in womanhood. We also might want to look at different relationships that we are in, how better able to learn how to communicate in ways that doesn't induce stress upon our bodies. But most of all, being responsible for ourselves and the ways in which we might be unconsciously addicted to stress. Whether that is through, like I said, relationships, work environments, the kinds of TV programs that we watch, scrolling on our phone, absorbing artificial light before sunrise or early in the morning and before we go to bed, not eating enough nutrient-dense and nourishing food, so our body's in a state of stress, under hydrating ourselves, not taking care of our mineral reserves and the energy that's needed just on a baseline level. Under eating, not eating enough and not being nourished is a massive stressor for women and definitely impacts their stress hormones and therefore their sex hormones too. Environmental toxins, choosing to use different products on our skin, our hair, opting for natural beauty products where we can, changing out things like having filtered water, choosing organic produce where it's available and we have the budget and the capacity to do so. These are just some of the ways in which we're able to mitigate stress and cultivate support, resource, and resilience within the body. There is a journey available to support anyone who's listening to this podcast and resonating with feeling stressed, being in chronic states of stress for long periods of time, and having challenges with sex hormones, menstrual cycle, ovulation, menstruation, fertility, all things connected to womb, health, and womanhood. There is light for you at the end of whatever tunnel you might feel that you're in. And I just wanted to share that balance and harmony are available to you. And sometimes we must look at ways in which we can rearrange our lives, release some old patterns, emotions, or stored experiences from our body, and consciously choose to step into places, spaces, experiences, and relationships that offer us an opportunity to become more regulated and in a state of ease, and unhook from our own addictions and patterns to stress within our body. I hope that this podcast has landed with you and has informed you and educated you in new ways, and also brought some space for insight, some reflection, and some curiosity to awaken within. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. If you loved this episode, please share it far and wide with your sisterhood and community. You can dive deep into all of my offerings via rebecca-wilson.com. Links to all offerings are below in the show notes of this episode. If you would love to support the podcast, please like, subscribe, download, and share the episodes so my work and this message can reach more women around the world. Remember, my love, you are here to live a life fully, deeply inhabiting your body and your divine nature. I am here to show you how. Hey love, I'm just dropping in to share that the doors are open for the waitlist for the next round of Embodied Woman Group Mentorship. This is a journey like no other, a deep dive into embodiment, somatic awareness, self-honoring and healing practices, the journey of remineralization, awakening your feminine energy and restoring the resources within your heart, body, wombs, cells, and overall vitality. This is my signature program, which launches twice a year. There are limited spaces for the intake. If you're feeling the call, head on down to the show notes in this episode, click the link and join the waitlist where you will receive more information soon. Hope you enjoyed the episode of this podcast. Sending you so much love. Have a beautiful, vital, and nourishing day.